Prices have tumbled again, and OPEC's called for cooperation from oil-producing nations outside of the cartel to help reverse the price fall. But what does this mean for the future of prices, and when will they start to recover? Our correspondent Tanya Beckett put that question to Majid Jafar from Crescent Petroleum, which is the Middle East's oldest private oil and gas company.
So the world got used to not only a high oil price of about $110, $120, but a stable one. We had that for about 4 or 5 years. So there was a surge of investment, and we saw about 10 million barrels a day of new oil, over half of that from the US, and about 2 million each from Iraq and Saudi Arabia, and about 1 million from Russia. So there was a surge of supply, but I think even more important that doesn't get enough attention is what's happening on demand. Because really, the developed world isn't where energy demand growth is coming from. It's from China and India and actually the Middle East itself. And in China, we've now seen the lowest growth in a generation. And people don't really seem to believe the 6-7%. And a lot of people think it might be more like 4 or 5%. But even more important, that 4 or 5% is more like 2 to 3% of 10 years ago, because the type of growth is about half as energy intensive as it used to be 10 years ago. China is moving away from massive commodities buying and investment in infrastructure. I mean, they poured more concrete in a couple of years than the US did in the whole of the last century. It was incredible. It can't carry on. And they're consciously moving to a more demand-based economy, and that's going to have an impact on the demand for energy. So I think we're going to see soft prices for at least the coming year. I don't expect to see much of a recovery in oil prices until perhaps this time next year. But then it will come back. It has to come back. But you know, we'll be more at sort of 40, 50, perhaps 60. We're not going to see $100 anytime soon.
What do you make of the strategy of Saudi Arabia, where it appeared that the intention was to keep pumping oil, allow prices to drop, and then that would price out American producers? But it didn't work, did it?
Well, I don't think it was a deliberate plan to push prices down, and I think they underestimated quite how far they would go down. I think it was a simple economic decision that we're the lowest cost producer, and why should we be the first to cut, particularly when non-OPEC major producers like Russia refused to participate. And they had bad memories of the 80s, where they played that game. They chased the price all the way down to single digits while reducing their production down to 2 million barrels a day, and it didn't work. So this time round they thought, hang on, let's hold our own and in terms of market share and see what happens.
Now let's have a look to see what's making news in the